Hello everybody and welcome back to Chapter Tactics, where we talk about both tactics and strategies for new and veteran players alike. I am Magikarp Usefly, also known as Matt. I do not have a camera today, but that's fine because we have two very handsome gentlemen joining us today that you guys can look at and just, gawk at because they're so pretty. First off, we have the one, the only, Skari.
Hello everyone. Did you know, random fact, that the old whippy sticks were supposed to be 18 inches long, and they rarely were?
What? What whippy stick? What are you talking about?
You don't know what the whippy sticks are?
Oh no, they. Hey, Matt's the whole Dice Check crew is very young into the hobby,
yeah.
Right? So they wouldn't know what a whippy stick is. So I thought it'd be fun to bring you back to us grognards. And let you know about some of the traditional staples in the hobby, which was these red or blue sticks, like plastic. Think of like a sprue, the shape of a sprue, but long, like 18 inches, supposed to be 18 inches long, and colored, and they had little markings on them, like in inches, basically.
Uh-huh.
So it was supposed to be that you could use it as a measuring stick, right?
Oh,
to learn the game. It was just included in the starter set. But they rarely were the right size.
Oh.
And you learned something today.
And if you're getting the new box set coming out, you'll be getting a set of those as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
That's for the Horus Heresy, right?
Yep.
Along with us as well, we have a very special guest here. We have Scott LaFountain. Scott, do you want to introduce yourself and let everybody at home know who you are and what faction you play and everything like that?
Well, there's kind of a misnomer about what faction I play. I actually have quite a collection going on, and Daemons is what I'm most well known for. That's what I've been running for all of 9th edition and towards the tail end of 8th edition. But my biggest army is my Dark Angels at over 25,000 points.
Oh, you have so many Dark Angels.
Yeah. And then following that is my Custodies at about 14,000.
Oh, okay. All right. Wait, what? How come?
That's like 3 models, though, so don't get
too
excited.
Yeah.
Of course.
But no, for the record, I play Demons is my primary right now. I also play Thousand Suns, Death Guard. I've got I'm starting a little bit of Chaos, regular Chaos Marines. I've got Dark Angels, Death Watch, Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, Imperial Guard.
You have everything.
I think that's it.
Why? I feel like it would have been better if you just named off the stuff that you don't have.
Yeah. And I just started Tau.
Yeah.
So I got Tau now also.
Okay. How come you didn't run Dark Angels during 9th edition when they were prominent?
When they first came out, I played them in an RTT, and I was really hyped at the end of 8th edition on Death Watch. And so I was focused more on Death Watch because they came out around the same time. And I haven't gotten back into them.
Okay. Even with Armor of Contempt, you haven't had an itch to even look at Dark Angels yet?
No, I've got a buddy who runs Death Guard, and he runs a kind of a spicy list that I've looked at running. And I've actually got all the models for it. I just haven't painted them up and tried playing it yet. But it's actually a Death Guard list with 4 Blight Haulers, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, 3 Bloat Drones with Flesh Mowers, and then being able to summon in Epidemius because they all get the bonuses from him for being demons and Nurgle.
Okay. So if you guys haven't noticed already, if you guys haven't read the title, today we're going to be talking about Chaos Demons and basically just doing a deep dive and seeing how they work right now in the current meta that we're in. Seeing Scott, what's picking his brain, seeing, what he likes, what he's heard through the grapevines for demon players and everything like that. But before we move on, this show is brought to you by FrontlineGaming.org, where you guys can get amazing game mats for not just your 40K games, but almost any tabletop game out there. Purchase miniatures at a discount and join some of the largest 40K events in the industry. They also have the largest 40K podcasting network in the business with shows like Signals from the Frontline, Chapter Tactics, and The Thursday Show with Adam Camilleri. And also 40K Stat Center is coming back, so keep your guys' eyes out for that. It's going to be a fun time. Other than that, LVO tickets literally just went up on Monday, so go get your tickets now. I think that in 2.5 hours, 500 tickets for the grand tournament got sold. So, get your stuff already. Almost more than half of the tickets for Age of Sigmar is already sold out as well. So, if you want to join LVO, go get your tickets for that. And yeah, but moving on from there, Scott, why Chaos Demons? Tell me why you went for Chaos Demons in 9th edition.
So originally when COVID hit, I've always had kind of a set of models I've always wanted to paint and just never got around to it. And so I was like, well, I'll start with Mortarion because I had him. And so I painted Mortarion up. And then I love the way he came out. And so I was like, well, I'm going to get another big model. And so I grabbed a Lord of Change next. And I had some demon models to bring in with my Death Guard and Thousand Suns. And from there, it just spurred. And I bought more and more models. I think I'm up to 2 Lord of Change, 2 Bloodthirsters, 3 Keepers, 2 Great Unclean Ones. Like it just goes on and on. And then I'm running somewhere close to 9,000 points in demons now total.
Wow. So what you're saying is that you saw Mortarion, you're like, yes, give me more of that. Is that basically what happened?
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually what started my first list when I started playing demons. It was actually a chaos list running Mortarion and one of each greater demon at the beginning of when COVID kind of started to lighten up a little bit. We could go back to playing tournaments. And that was my first list, so I was really running demons and that's kind of what I've been running since. So just variations of that list on and off.
Mm-hmm. Now, Skari, being a Drukhari player, naturally you don't like demons. So
No, I don't like a specific type of
Slanesh loves you though.
We we know. Well, we did birth a demon. So a god. That's saying something.
But I mean, you don't like Slanesh. You don't have a fun time with that. But
it's true. We like our souls.
Yeah. How has it been like fighting against demons, especially like during 9th edition and everything?
Well, I've done both. I've played as demons. I've also played against them. I feel like the demon. There's a couple of archetypes or archetypes.
Archetypes.
Yeah. The couple of archetypes that I've seen, like ebb and flow or wane and ebb or whatever over the course of the editions, from Monster Mash to like hordes to fast moving stuff, and I feel like the demon book is part of this like chaos conglomerate that requires someone to be very attuned to the rules and where to find them and how they overlap and interact with each other. And I find that the best chaos/demon players make the most of all these overlapping rules and synergistic combinations. But at the end of the day, in order to do it properly, you sort of need to have like 5 books with you, like 2 supplements and 3 codexes, or like a white dwarf and some random page in the back of like somebody's van or something. Like it's and then if you know it and you use it, it's fantastic, right? But if it can feel overwhelming and daunting, and complicated. So a lot of people who get into it for the first time or don't see the results right away, or it could be confusing. So that's from the outside looking in, and from playing a couple of things with demons. That's my general sort of like thought process when seeing demon armies.
Scott,
yeah, I'd have to agree.
Scott, tell me, how many books do you usually bring when you go to like a tournament when you're playing demons?
So I actually just was at a tournament this last weekend, and I had a white dwarf. I had the Demon Codex, Engine War Supplement. I had like 4 or 5 books with me. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so weird how many books you need for demons. It's nuts. And then like some data sheets just aren't inside of the regular codex, right?
They're in a supplement randomly, and
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, like I think I played Word Bearers a couple of times over the edition, and mainly so I could just combine them with demons, because I really like having like a giant unit of like Slanesh possessed, and then having like a patrol of Slanesh to have like a herald, give them advance and charge and things like that with the locust. But at that point, I'm like, I'm using 4 codexes for that. You
Yeah, yeah.
know,
Dude,
and flipping through like 50 different books to try and figure stuff out.
Man, dude, I absolutely love Slanesh. Like, Slanesh is so much fun to me. I've ran both the Monster Mash version with like keepers. I've ran like Celestia and all that stuff. I just
Yep.
love the whole advance in charge. Like, and Demons just looks so cool. Scott, what would you say is the best like demon? I guess god to worship.
Oh man, that's a hard one. I'm probably gonna have to go with my Zinch though.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
How come?
Zinch is a lot of fun. I mean, Nurgle's is always happy and joyful. Like they just want to come give you
Mhm.
hugs. It feels like all the time. But I don't know. There's something about the trickery of Zinch is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like it. What about you, Scary? What's your favorite one?
Um, to be honest, I like word bearers, and I like having a giant summoning pool. So then I can just summon whatever I want when I want it from
Yeah.
whichever god I need it from.
Dude, the summoning mechanic for demons is so cool, but I feel like that just doesn't come up very often. Is that would you say that that is correct, Scott, or do you do a lot of summoning right now?
That's an interesting topic because my current list has 525 points of summoning in it.
Perfect.
Whew.
That's I find like about 500 points, 420 to like 500 some points. I have found to be like a perfect number.
Yeah, it gives you a
Yeah.
lot of flexibility in your list and what you do.
Okay.
However, the thing is, you need to like have like to have a 500-point summoning sidebar because that's literally what it is. It's like a sidebar. You get to see what your opponent has brought to the table, and that's where the knowledge of the book comes into play. Because if you're playing demons and you know that fiends are like the thing you need in this matchup, then you can summon fiends. If you know that you need plague bearers, you can summon plague bearers. Like it's just one of these things where your knowledge of the demon book becomes super important. But then you have to bring like 3,000 points worth of demons to have options to summon 500 points.
Oh yeah, I trust me. I had this last tournament I went to the large Magnarak trays from Battlefilm. I
Hmm.
had three and a half of those full of models, and
Yeah.
only like one and a half was actually in my list.
How many
Hmm.
broke? Did any
None.
break? None? Oof.
Nah, I'm really careful with my stuff.
Okay.
As much time as I put into painting them, I can't. It hurts me when they get broken.
Yeah, yeah. So, how about can you tell me like more of like the summoning mechanic that you've been working with? You said that you had one list that was running 500 points of summoning. What was that for?
So it's kind of a weird Disciples of Bellacor list. I learned about this list from a buddy Wallace and over at Warhammer, and he uses the Master of Possession to bring into his list
Okay.
because the
And what
Master
does
of
that
Possession
do?
can. So
Oh,
he's a Chaos Space Marine sorcerer basically,
Hmm.
but he gets a unique set of trees that he can pull his powers from, and one of his powers allows him to summon in the psychic phase,
Yep.
where
oh,
normally you
okay.
have to summon in the movement phase. And it also allows him to not take the mortals on any doubles or triples, and he can roll up to 4 dice when he's summoning.
Oh, wow. Okay. All
One
right.
of my favorites because then you can move him into position and
Yeah, you
then
can advance
summon
him
him.
up, get
Yeah,
him where
it's
you need to be,
fantastic.
keep him
Yeah.
protected.
Hmm.
And so you just make sure that he's outside that 24, and then you summon them in, summon in what you need, and then you can use the Demonic Pact ability from the Chaos Demons book that just says when a Chaos unit summons a model, you can summon again for 1 CP.
Hmm.
So he advances up and summons twice by getting one power off.
Dude, that's awesome. So like what are you actually summoning during these games?
So I haven't done real well with it so far. I'm still working on this. I'm trying to fine tune this list. It's not an easy list to play by any means. Um, but sometimes it's just having the stuff there and the threat of I could bring this in. For instance, I had a soul grinder, which most people don't know what soul grinders are because they're
This
absolutely horrible.
madman, you brought a soul grinder.
Yeah, it's I mean it's
Well, you
Absolute
can
literally
summon
madman.
him, right? You
Yeah.
can just
sitting
summon it if you wanted
right
to.
here. Yeah, I mean the soul grinders look cool, but
Yeah.
they're not great. But just that threat of, well, if you get too close, I could bring this guy in, or I could use this shooting from afar.
So
Um,
the mechanic itself is you roll normally 2 or is it 3 dice? 3
up
dice?
to three,
Up to 3. So you can do 1, 2, or 3 dice,
and
and
it's
you
weird
add the.
because the wording on that, by the way, is kind of interesting because it doesn't say that you have to declare how many you're going to roll. So some TOs have told me no, you have to declare it. but by the wording, you can roll up to 3. So you can roll 1 if you don't get enough that you need. You can roll a second one and then a third one if needed.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then what you do is you add the result together, and that's how many power level of units you can bring in. So if you roll like an 18 on 3 dice, it means you can bring in a unit of up to 18 power level. And then depending on your point pool, you just subtract the point cost of that unit from your point pool total, but you could bring in like a greater demon or a demon prince. It's also a great way to bypass the rule of 3, which is a lot of people forget, because you can't build a list with more than 3 units of some kind, but you can summon in multiple demon princes or cannons of corn. I've seen the corn cannon ones brought in a lot, like summoned, especially with the corn crown when you're playing demons for exploding 6s and stuff. Like, there's some really cool mechanics and combos that people have come up with.
Dude, that sounds awesome. That sounds like so much fun. Is the list fun for you to play, Scott?
Yeah, the list is interesting because the list is a kind of a board control horde list. It's so because it's Disciples of Bellacor, you have to bring Bellacor. But then the bulk of my list is 30 pink horrors and 50 bloodletters.
Oh my goodness. Absolute
And so
madman.
the bloodletters are split 30 and 20. You keep the 30 on the board. You put the 20 in deep strike for a single CP because they're only 8 power level. And then because Disciples Bellacor has the power where it's like the old orc to jump ability, you just pick up those bloodletters and drop them 9 inches away. And with the banner of blood and the horn, you have to get an 8 on 3 dice to be able to get that charge off.
Yeah. Oh, that's simple. With a reroll, that's like what?
Like Bloodletter Bomb on turn 1, which is fantastic.
Oh, wait, you can do that on turn 1?
Well, yeah, it's like the jump. You're not putting them in reserves, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's very aggro. And another cool thing as well is, when, for example, you have 500 points of summoning, all you need to do is buy 10 units of 10 pink horrors, right? It bypasses the blast rule, and at the same time, it's 50 models on the table. It doesn't look like 50 models, but it's 50 models, and you have to get through all of them. It's really, really annoying. And then with Bellacor, you can automatically pass morale on a 1, and then you bring D6 pinks back.
So again, you have to have a Chaos Space Marine in your army to do that, and that's where the Master Possession comes in as well.
Yeah, so good. It's like such a good combo-centric list, and I love it.
And then the only other character I have in the list is the Contorted Epitome. That's the demonette with the big mirror. Yeah. And if you get her, what I like to do is I like to have the pink horrors charge into a unit near the middle of the board, and wrap them, and then have the Contorted Epitome within 6 inches, because now that unit can't fall back unless I fail a 3d6 leadership test on them.
Yeah, with the Contorted.
And so now I've got 30 pink horrors strung out. That you killed a couple that I split off into blues. I'm grabbing 3 objectives with this one unit, and you can't even shoot them now.
Oh, do you bring blues also in like your little pool of 500 points or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I love that.
Yeah, because that unit of 10 pinks splits each pink into 2 blues.
Yep.
Each blue into a brim, right? So it's 10 models, but it's really 50 models.
Yeah. Do you bring brimstones, or do you just bring?
I absolutely bring brimstones.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
First off, it's the cheapest OBSEC unit that we can get for 50 points.
Yeah,
and they're still technically a psyker.
Yeah, that's
infantry. Yeah,
that's great. So what has it been like running demons throughout like 9th edition? Coming from the beginning, because I know that demons were pretty popular in the beginning of 9th edition, then waned off a little bit, and now they're coming back into favor just a little bit as of right now, depending on like what type of terrain setup or like what type of tournament setup you're going into. What has it been like?
So Demons early on was really interesting because, like I said, I was running the Monster Mash with Mortarion and one of each greater demon. And so that was kind of fun because at the time, this was before Drukhari and anything had really come out that was super strong. And so they could just run through everything. They were still on par with all the old codexes. Everyone was trying to fight for secondaries. And I just got these big, 100mm bases I'm popping down on objectives, and if they try to tag it, I can heroically intervene into them and just clear them off. And so it was really cool in the beginning. The list did really well, And then Drukari came out and Admet came out, and the demons definitely got hurt until Drukari and Admet took the nerf bat to the head.
And then also
But
Bellacor came in as well.
yeah, well, and Bellacor came in too. Yeah, Bellacor kind of gave him a shot up after that. Because the just running Bellacor at the time in a demon soup list was a huge advantage. Getting the loci on Slanesh, and so now he can advance and charge. Made a huge difference for that for the playability of the army, and that's what I ended up taking with SoCal and did so well with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What place did you get in SoCal again?
I took 8th. I lost to Logan Heath at the 7th round to that nasty orc list.
Yeah. With
Which was funny because
Freighters.
I played that same list, I think, on like round 2 earlier that tournament, and I won. The big difference was that Logan had all of his buggies in individual units.
Yeah.
So Bellacor would just go in and just completely murder one, but then the other ones were untouched. Where the other person I played, they had them in units of 3, and so I'd go in and Bellacor would kill 2 or 3 of them in one attack.
Yeah. Made it harder for you to focus fire on.
Yeah,
them.
just couldn't shoot through them.
Yeah. I feel that.
And that's the one thing that demons I've found, especially the greater demons, suffer. They suffer with mass volume of fire.
Mm-hmm. Especially like what is it? Heavy bolters, like 2 damage, AP 1.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything that's putting out a ton of shots. It's when you start forcing us to roll saves, and most of our saves are 5-up invulns, we're gonna start failing them.
Definitely. So what about now though for demons?
So we're in kind of a weird spot now with all this stuff that's come out that can ignore invuln saves.
Mm-hmm.
Demons still have to get up close. We don't have that many shooting options that do really well for us. The obvious is flamers of Tzeentch. Maybe pink horrors if you're talking into T3 chaff like Eldar and Mechanicus. But right now it's kind of a really scary in the meta. And so what I've focused on mostly is just running hordes. Mass bodies going out there holding objectives. I was running a list at one point that had almost 50 bloodletters, 30 pinks, and almost 70 plague bearers.
And how did that work
And it's
out?
just that worked out okay. In the Disciples of Bellacor list, if you have a demon character, they give off an aura within 6 inches of -1 to hit, and you can't reroll hit rolls against them from range attacks. And so plague bearers, if they're over 20 models in a unit, they automatically get a -1 to hit as well. So now you've got some 20 plus T4 bodies sitting on objectives that are OBSEC that get a 5-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain that you're -2 to hit and can't reroll against.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
And they just sit there. And like I ran that right around the time that Tau came out.
Yeah.
And like you got marker lights, great, you're still -1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Till you run into the reroll wound flamer bomb of death, which is always really fun. The thing about demons is they've always have some really good aggro options and some really like that keeper's a secret list. Like the 4 keepers, like you got like the 4 keepers and say Bellacor or summoning points or whatever. Like it's such an aggro list that tends to do really well into a lot of the meta. I feel like it did go downhill because we were seeing it everywhere, and then Drukari and like you said, Drukari and Admech came out, and then it just stopped being a thing. Like people just put it on the shelf. Yeah. But even now, like it is scary to go up against a bunch of keepers.
Yeah,
like you put them right on the line, and some of them are exalted, some of them you're rolling for, whatever, and those keepers are on you turn 1. Like they will pick stuff, and they have lots of attacks. They can kill things. They pin you in your zone. They're just killy, right? And it's surprising how much damage they can do. People, forget that those things will mess you up if you're not careful.
Yeah, and
I think the biggest problem with the keepers still though is that while they are fast and they are killy, screens can really mess up that army. I have a buddy that plays Tau, and he puts some Kroot hounds out there and moves them forward pre-game, and because they don't have fly, he blocks off ways where I can get to them, and it's like, cool, I just killed 2 Kroot hounds, but I'm stuck out here in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that hammerhead's just going to shoot at me. And the other one, and long strike.
Oh, I'm dead. Oh, I lost.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
cool, I lost 2 models this turn.
Time to go get a beer.
Two big
I'm
models.
out.
There's a quarter of my army gone.
Yeah.
GG.
Yeah. And then, what you have like what is it, warp surge or whatever for the 4-up invuln to just like pray to the gods that maybe something like you'll survive, and then it just doesn't work out. And it's
Well,
just,
yeah, but you don't get that against a hammerhead.
against hammerheads. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hammerheads can be pretty scary.
yeah, well, and that's what I was talking about. Just anything that can ignore these invulns. I mean, demons innately have a 6-up save.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ignore our invulns, whatever it's hitting us with, it's probably going straight through.
Yeah. So I guess like that's a good way to go into this, or into this next topic. Like, where are Chaos Demons sitting at now, in your opinion?
So for those that don't know, looking at the old release schedule, Chaos Demons right now is the second oldest viable codex that you can play, and it's only beaten out by about 2.5 months ahead of that with Imperial Guard. And so we are so outdated right now. Even if you look at supplements, even Imperial Guard, they've had like 3 or 4 updates that have come out, and then other armies that they can soup in that doesn't affect them. Whereas Demons, we've had Bellacor, and that's been about it. I mean, well, we had the Engine War. So,
Which was
but we're
great.
still,
Yeah.
oh, Engine War was amazing for us, but we're so far behind everyone else. It's a struggle to try to play when the game primarily has gotten so much more killy, and we haven't.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten any more durable like some of these other units have. And that's where we hurt the most. So, I mean, when you see these rankings, they're like, oh, they're like a B or C tier. Yeah, we're probably sitting at a low B compared to a lot of stuff out there. But if we have the right build, we can absolutely go in and still, take out some of those A tier or S tier armies.
Okay. All right.
I think you've highlighted one of the biggest things. It's definitely one of those skill set armies. Not only do you have to like understand all the interlocking keywords and abilities that kind of affect demons, don't affect demons. Bellacor then does this, and then you're adding in Chaos Space Marines, and you're adding demons, and you're adding like all of these things that are supposed to work. You only get good at that if you're practicing with it and playing it and invested and sort of like learning how all of this happens. Just at face value, most people are going to go, too much work, and they're just going to like toss it aside and won't take the time to really put it into practice and then fine tune it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's spot on. It takes a lot of practice with this army. It's one of those armies that has a very high threshold of skill, and if you're not up there, you're not going to do well with it.
Okay. And what would you say are the units that like you kind of like go back to all the time when you're building your lists?
Well, right now, Bellacor. I mean, if you're playing demons, you have to have Bellacor.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen a demon list in probably the last year that didn't have Bellacor in it.
How upset were you when they increased his points?
That FAQ when it came out, I mean, it's like, okay, Bellacor went up 20 points. I get it. He was the only thing at the time that was really strong with ignoring invuln saves. He still had to get across the board to do it. He's not like a hammerhead that just sits back there and shoots us. So that hurt, but that was also the same time they increased points on the Lord of Change after they'd already increased them the time before that, and then they hit us with Nurglings on top of it. It's like, guys, what do we do to piss you off so much, GW? Come on, man, quit hurting us. We're already down.
And they didn't get anything during the latest balance slate either.
The last 2 data slates, we got nothing.
Yeah, that was crazy. It's nuts.
Demons clearly OP. Do not need any changes whatsoever, right?
Yeah. You see, Bellacor can kill like anything. They don't need anything else. They're fine. They're totally fine.
In a vacuum, it all sucks.
Yeah. So what are the lists that you're primarily running when it comes to demons? You've been talking a lot about Disciples of Bellacor. Is that just like what you primarily run as of now as Disciples?
Yeah, so right now I'm primarily running Disciples just because there's some unique things in that list that a lot of people don't realize. First off, you know how most armies, they have the detachment ability that says like, if every model in this detachment is, blah, 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 whatever, then troops get OBSEC. The Army Renowned for Disciples of Bellacor just says troops in this army get OBSEC. Doesn't matter if they start in the list or they're summoned in. Troops get OBSEC. I can summon in Nurglings or Plague Bears, and they still have OBSEC.
Yo, that's sick. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's really cool. Then they have the orders for the -1 to hit and the no rerolls, and that helps out a lot. The jump ability. There's a lot of shenanigans that you can do with that list that is kind of clutch, and so that's primarily why I've been running disciples. Um, but yeah, it's just again with everything getting so killy, and that's the problem. We have a hard time competing. By running the disciples, we can't bring any name characters and we can't bring any greater demons. And that is the biggest thing that hurts us right there. Because
You
that's
also
the
have to
stuff.
have one of each thing. Like you have to take one of each, like god before you can take another one of each god, right?
Right. So we have to, and it's even more particular than that. Not only do we have to have one of each god before we can have a second one, it also states that we have to do that when we're summoning or bringing other units in.
Oh, so
And
you
so
can't
again,
you can't like double summon like Nurglings or anything. You have to do like one at a time for each god.
well, yes and no. So like right now, my list starts off with 2 Corn, 1 Zinch, 1 Nurgle, and 1 Slanesh. So I can easily bring in like a Nurgling and Slanesh, no problem. And then my next turn, I can summon in 2 Zinch because I've hit the first Zinch hits that bracket of 2, and now it opens up the third bracket. So I can. It's kind of weird. It's a little bit of bookkeeping, but it's not too bad.
Okay.
By a little bit of bookkeeping, he means it's bookkeeping, and then you have to like keep track of it. And a lot of players would just be like, too much math. It's like
Well,
I just want to
yeah,
shoot you with stompy Gundams or whatever.
yeah, but if you compare it to other armies like AdMech and all their bookkeeping they have at the beginning of the command phase, it's so much
Touche,
less.
touche. I have been bested in the.
And that's part of the reason I still run demons is because we don't have nearly as much bookkeeping as some of these newer builds or newer armies are having right
Do you
now.
even have a command phase? Like stuff that you do in the command phase?
Bellacor gives out rerolls to
Oh,
hit
he's
for
a
one
chapter
unit.
master, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's it.
Mhm.
That's easy. That's easy to keep track of.
Yeah, just oh cool, command phase, done.
Yeah. So, going back to the list that you primarily run, and you just been saying it's just been Disciples of Bellacor. Really, do you miss like your demonic locais and stuff like that?
I do. I
Yeah.
miss Bellacor advancing and charging. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. That's what I
because
would
he's
think.
so
Yeah.
slow. It's you've got to if you're playing on player place terrain, you've got to make sure you have that piece of terrain that he can hide behind and then jump out the next turn. It just yeah, I miss it.
Yeah. So, do you just like have you ever thought of going back to running like locais or just sticking with disciples?
No, I definitely have, especially with the San Diego Open coming up in a few days here. I'm still kicking back and forth on my list on what I want to run. I've got like 5 or 6 ideas in my head, and one of them is jumping back to what I brought to SoCal Open, which is Bellacor, 3 Keepers, a Lord of Change, Poxbringer, 30 Demonettes, 7 Nurglings, and 2 Beasts of Nurgle and 2 Fiends.
Okay. Okay. And why are you thinking about going over to that instead of sticking with Disciples of Bellacor?
It's familiar. It's more killy. The Disciples of Bellacor list I'm running with the Horde. Other than the Bloodletters and Bellacor, there's nothing that really does a lot of damage in that list. I mean, I can summon Inflamers that will do some damage, but other than that, it's just I'm going to sit on objectives and pick up models as you kill me and try to outlast you. And it's not quite as much fun as I enjoy with compared to running a keeper 28 inches across the board and getting into combat and killing you and then tagging something else for next turn.
Yeah, yeah. Skari, what do you think about demons? Would you rather, if you were to run demons, would you rather take something like Disciples of Bellacor, or would you run something with more of a like, the different demonic locais instead, like Chaos Undivided or a Slanesh detachment, things like that, for
Too
like a
many
competitive
options.
game?
Too many options.
It's too much. It's too
And
much.
it's too many options because I want to do everything. Um, However, my favorite way to play is to run a Chaos Space Marine main and then have a detachment of like demons to use the loci from the heralds, and
Mhm.
then sort of like put units in my Chaos Space Marine detachment that like will benefit from the loci, like possessed and things like that. Especially when I'm using like word bearers, that and potentially using Then again, let's caveat this. This is more me playing for fun, right? Like that's when
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just
okay.
wanting to have a good time. It's not necessarily good. If I wanted, I do like I'm a huge fan of the the Zinch builds. So like Chicken of Doom with impossible robes and stuff like that. I think is still a very very good build. He's very tough to take down, that sort of thing.
Unkillable bird.
And a couple of like say 3 units of 10 horrors with like 500 points with the summoning in the bank, and then mixed in with something else, and that is a core, right? With maybe a demon prince or whatever, or a fate change caster or whatever the call, or the little guy, the changeling, the guy that gives everybody
The changeling,
the
yeah.
6-up feel no pain or whatever, that guy.
Yep.
Like so that style build, and then last but not least, it's the Slanesh like monster build.
Yeah.
Because it's not a lot of thinking. It's
Ooga
go
booga.
online,
Ooga
roll
booga.
to see who
Yeah.
goes first, and then profit. And
Um,
it's over quickly regardless of what happens.
Scar did touch on something very interesting here, and that's talking about like souping. So, like, have you thought about like souping other types of factions in with your demons? Things like the new Chaos Knights that are coming out, Chaos Space Marines are coming out. Have you thought about any of that?
That's what's been on my mind the most right now. For those people that aren't too familiar out there, there was on page 77 of issue 475 in the White Dwarf, there is a whole 2 paragraphs that I paid for this book for, that is kind of insane. Um, Basically, you're allowed to take a single knight in a Disciples of Bellacor army. Um, and the knight gains some interesting things. Instead of being like a dreadblade where they're kind of like the free blades for the Imperial Knights, this one gets a lot more stuff than that. He can still get the favor of the gods, but it has to be the blessing of the Dark God, which is the one where you can't reroll hits, wounds, or damage rolls against them. And
The
once he
best
kills
one. Yeah.
10 wounds worth of models, then he also is transhuman to wound, I
Yeah.
believe, or transhuman to hit.
It's one of those.
But you can also put on him. So he has to be from House Corvax. He still gets his demonic surge traitorous ambitions and the Forge and Terror household bond. So what those do is the first one, the traitorous ambitions. That's one where you can roll the D3 and take a mortal wound, and you get a chance of getting a good one. Or you just take D3 mortal wounds and you make them automatically transhuman to hit on top of the wounds as well.
Oh, that's
So you've got
nasty.
this knight that you can't reroll hits, wounds, or damage rolls, and he's transhuman to hit, transhuman to wound. And if you make him the abominant, you can give him the spell that he can get a 5-up invuln or
Up,
a
up,
5-up
up,
feel no
feel the
pain,
pain. Yeah. That is
and he just
disgusting.
becomes really really hard to kill. And then you can still the dread chart that we lose access to because he's House Corvax. He still gets access to the stratagem for House Corvax, or the ability for House Corvax that allows him to use one of those abilities from the dread table 1 time per game.
Wait, I'm sorry. What exactly does that mean?
So the dread table is where you force your opponents that are within 12 inches to
Oh,
take
it's the
dread
dread
tests.
test. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you lose that ability normally as a free blade or dread blade, but in this case you get to do it for 1 turn.
Oh, okay. So you still get access to it, is what you're saying, for 1 turn.
Exactly. But the
Okay.
biggest thing by far is he still gets the knight gains the Disciples of Bellacor keyword. And so when you bring him in, it only costs a single CP because he still has the same keyword as Bellacor. And it doesn't have to be a faction keyword, just a keyword.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great. And when you can take a super heavy for like a CP, and that super heavy synergizes. I've done it with Adeptus Mechanicus with Metallica and like House Raven or whatever. They had like this really cool synergistics thing before with some of the supplement books as well. Another combo that I was running with like 4 different books or something like that. But still, it's cool to see Chaos get something special like that as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I've been kicking around this list on whether I want to bring it to SoCal Open or whether I want to change out the Abominant and just go 3 baby knights instead. Um, because there's when your House Corvax, a strat that you can use for them is 2 CP to either pick 1 big knight or 2 war dog class knights. And in the movement phase, they can move through terrain and enemies as if they're not there, or in the charge phase for 1 CP, they can charge and move through terrain and enemies as if they're not there.
That sounds very strong, especially for like for US open terrain maps. That sounds really,
And
really good.
and that's why I'm kicking it around. And that's why the other option is just taking a pure Chaos Knight army and kind of going away from demons for this one event, and making sure it's House Korvax so I can purposely go through terrain.
Okay.
Let's not forget that Chaos Knights that are characters that can still summon, right?
Yes.
So you can even do a knight army with demon summoning points and then bring in some summoning
Bellacor.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Summoning. What's the leadership on Bellacor? Is it 10?
It'd be his power level.
Yeah, so I think it's close to 14.
Oh, it's a 14 power level. Oh, that's kind of high.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
But if you did, and you just had those 400 points lying around, you're like, and now Bellacor has decided to join us.
But at the same point, do you want to sacrifice a knight that's not moving to try to bring Bellacor?
Yes.
And hoping you're not.
It would be so fun.
That's a good answer.
If you pull that off, and then now your knights have this crazy close combat, ignoring invols, psychered, super demon prince.
It's crazy.
Guy.
Don't let Skari put crazy thoughts into your guys' heads, guys.
That's gonna work. That's gonna work in the finals. Every time you need it to go off, it's gonna happen.
Skari, I'm a teacher and I teach science. It's been a while since I've taught math, but what's the odds of getting 14 on 3d6?
The odds are 100% when it happens. Okay.
There you go.
So it's just gonna happen.
It's just a troublemaker in the back of the class, just being like, that's my teacher now.
Actually, the actual odds of it happening, 3d6, your average medium is what, 10 on 3d6,
10 and a half, yeah.
10 and a half or something. So the variance there, you're just as likely to roll 14 as you are to roll a 7, you know what I mean, or something like that. So with 3 dice. So sometimes it'll go lower, sometimes it'll go higher. But I would do it just for shits and giggles. Just saying, that'd be really fun.
So with this whole I know that GW is really cracking down on souping armies and stuff. Does that bother you at all when it comes to Chaos Demons? Because I know that with regular Chaos, just as a faction in general, they love souping with each other because there's just so much synergy out there. But if they're cracking down on it, what does that bother you at all?
Not really, because we're with the Disciples of Bellacor, we're kind of encouraged to do that. But just right now, Chaos Space Marines, and don't hate me, people out there play them, kind of suck right now in the meta. Yeah. Without being 2-wound Marines, there's I'd rather take other stuff that's a little bit harder to kill.
Bro, I feel like that even when they do get their 2 wounds, it's not going to mean anything. Just because
I think when they get their extra wounds, we're going to see Possessed and Terminators will be quite deadly.
Oh, yeah. Are you thinking about running Possessed and Terminators when they do drop, when the new book comes out?
If I haven't got a Demon Codex by then, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's been some leaks coming out talking about detachments and what's going to be going on with new GW with the new Grand Tournament book that's coming out. I think it's called Nihilum or something like that. I don't know exactly. Something crazy.
Your guess is the best.
Yeah, Nephilim jet fighter. So one of them is your starting CP for your detachment is now 6 CP. For demons, I don't know if this affects Disciples of Bellacor that much, but I know that for regular demons, they spend all of their CP up front on things like warlord traits, exalted, stuff like that. How is that going to affect demons?
So my current list, I'm spending 2 CP for the Banner of Blood for my Bloodletter unit, so that they get the extra dice on the charge for once per game. And I'm spending 2 CP for bringing the auxiliary detachment. And that's all I need to spend CP for pre-games for the Disciples of Bellacor list I've been running. So it doesn't affect me too much. And if I want to bring a knight, it's only a single CP.
Okay. So the 6 CP actually doesn't bother you at all?
No, not really.
All right. What about the loss of things like Stranglehold into the last? Does that bother you?
Stranglehold, absolutely. I think Stranglehold is one of those secondaries. I can't tell you the last game I played where I didn't take Stranglehold playing demons.
Yeah, it's so good. I recently I didn't even know that was hold 3 or more. I thought it was still end more. So even now I'm just oh, it's even better. It's so good. Yeah. Such a good secondary. So
yeah, and then to the last one, I was running Monster Mash. You're trying to kill, Lord of Change, Bellacor and one keeper that I've got, kitted out to the nines. Because that's another interesting thing back with demons. When I was running that list and you're playing to the last, and you pick your three most expensive models. When you roll your traits for each of the exalted keepers, they're all the same point value, and you roll those before the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you just pick the one that got like the 4 Binvol and the -1 to wound, and all of a sudden that becomes your third to the last.
Yeah, and it's solid. It's a solid to the last option.
Yeah.
Skari, what do you think about those like leaked changes that are out in the void for people to speculate on?
I've been thinking about it and how it affects my list building. See, I'm spoiled as a Drukhari player.
Mm-hmm. You have what's it called? What's your secondary that's really strong?
Shenanigans?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of secondaries, like Drukhari secondaries are okay. You've got Herd the Prey, which is like
Herd the Prey. That's the one I was thinking of.
That one tends to be really, really good.
Yeah.
But in terms of list building and having few CP, I tend to spend like 4 pre-game CP. And if I only had 6 to start with, I probably would maybe like not spend on like an additional relic.
Yeah.
And then do maybe just 3 and like start with 3. And so I'm thinking, which relic would I use, or which extra warlord trait would I take, that sort of thing.
The one thing I think a lot of people are missing on that leak is that it also talks about you don't get a free warlord trait or relic anymore.
Yeah.
And so where normally you're spending 4, now to that same build, you're spending 6 because you have to pay for that extra warlord trait and relic.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious to see how that's going to work exactly. And
I think I'm more curious to see if it's true.
Right. We've had free warlord trait and free relic forever, right? So it's that definitely be a change, because at that point, if say something like that was true, it's like, is the warlord trait that you're taking pivotal to your game plan, or is it just something that you took because it was free? Is that relic pivotal to the way that you need to play the game, or are we just taking it because it was free, right? And I think that's gonna change just inherently. Like that would change how everything works. Well, however, for detachments, for example, as a Dark Eldar player, I take patrols. They're all free, right? Like, so I can still do the crazy Coven, Witch Cult, Cabal patrols. That's not going to be an issue. Or do a real space raid and do everything in a battalion. And then that's fine, right? So I will say, as a Dark Eldar player, I'll be spoiled if with that sort of thing coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to change.
I won't apologize for my Drukhari.
Hey,
I played them for 18 years. Thank you very much, and I will take everything I can get, like a true Archon does, and stab everybody in the back.
Oh man, if I only played 18 years, I'd be sad. I started playing back in 2nd edition.
Third for me, but it only Drukhari. Actually, Black Templars was 23, 24 years ago now.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, wow. I bought my first box set, I think it was 92 or 91 when the 2nd edition box set came out.
You have me beat, because I was 5.
Or yeah, 6. I was 9 or 10 at that time. So yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Did you guys buy Horus Heresy at all? Did you guys get the box set for Horus Heresy?
I will have to give Games Workshop a nice shout out for sending me a free one to review and check. So I just legally have to say that it was free, and they sent me one to review.
Oh, okay.
Hey, can you tell me? There's been some rumors going around that the Land Raider in there's different variants you can build for that.
Was a Spartan. The thing is, the sprues for it's a Spartan that you can build, but the sprues for it, say Land Raider, like for the last cannons. So speculation and pictures from the book say that they're probably going to release a plastic version of the old school Land Raider with the tracks on the outside, and it's just going to use some of the sprues that the Spartan uses.
Yeah, it's probably missing the one sprue you need to be able to do that kind of thing.
To extend it into a Spartan or something.
Yeah, I did not buy it. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to 40K, because I'm one of those people, like, I am uber competitive. Like, I get into something that's like a competitive situation, and my wife's gonna be like, "Hey, calm down." Because of that, my competitiveness, like, I don't play even Kill Team or games like that, the other games, because I don't want to get rules mixed up in my head.
That makes sense. Yeah, because and you're bringing like 5 books anyways, right? You can't. You can't.
No,
bring
I
more
would like
now.
to get that kit just because I do want the Contemptor. I want the Spartan. Um, Everything else I've kind of have
Plastic
already.
Leviathan Dreadnought. Okay, that
Amazing.
thing looks so cool. And the fact that it's plastic means you don't have to order this dinky forgeable stuff that then is half warped all the time. And then you have to scrub it with a toothbrush or in soapy water and try fix all the pieces. And
Get a
uh,
hair
I,
I
I
freaking
just want
Send
it.
it
molded
back in
black.
shape.
Yeah.
You've put a Demacaron together, right?
Yeah. It's awful.
Okay.
It's terrible.
I put a Tantalus together, I've put a Phantom Titan together, a Revenant Titan together. So, like, Forge World is not fun to work with.
It's the
You know,
resin.
the one Forge World model that I built from Demons was the Great Unclean one, or the Scarabaks, whatever the name is.
Ugath or Scabrathrax or whatever.
Scab, yeah.
Yeah.
Which the guy is basically like one resin piece the size of a softball, and then like a sword, a hand, and some horns, and that's it.
Or you could go for Angron or whatever. What's the name of the Forge World?
That Bloodthirster one, yeah.
Bloodthirster, yeah. And that one, the whip was straight, and you had to like bend the whip
So
to like
ridiculous.
curve the whip to make sure it looked like a whip. If not, it was just like a straight piece of resin.
That sounds
And like,
terrible. Why would say
yeah.
that?
And then if you do the Slanesh one, like you have to glue like each individual little spiky like thing on its leg.
Yeah,
There's like
nope, not even
What?
try it.
100 little spikes,
What?
and they're each an individual tiny piece of resin.
I'm really hoping that the mold for Kabunda is good. The new Bloodthirster that they announced back at LVO.
Yeah.
Oh
Wait. His
yeah,
name is
that because they said
Kabunda.
He
that was
hasn't come out
Forge World
yet.
too, right?
They said it's Forge World, not plastic, which is so
You know, the
disappointing.
first thing I looked at that was the whip, and I was like, I bet that whip is straight. I bet you have
See,
to.
and
You have
I
to
looked at it and
bend
I
it
bet.
that way.
See, I saw it and I went, "Oh, I bet that whip's gonna break."
Dude, I completely forgot about that guy, dude. Like that guy is sick.
I've been waiting for him to come out.
Yeah, I guess because I just haven't heard of anything about him since LVO.
At least give me a preview of the rules already for him. Like,
yeah,
come on,
come on,
GW.
man. They'll probably come
Potato
out
camp,
after.
potato camp, potato camp.
Hey, speaking of rules, did you guys see the that tank, the new one from the Horse Heresy that they released the data sheet for today?
Kratos.
The Kratos, yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, 18 wounds though. That sucks.
18 wounds with a 2-up save, but
Yeah.
no invuln. I'm like,
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
gross. Doesn't make sense to me.
Kratos, meet my volcano cannon.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it does get armor contempt though, so it's basically got a 1-up save.
Woo! But it can't be
I don't know.
obscured, so it's like
Yeah.
like anything that's gonna shoot at it isn't gonna be 1 AP. Like it's gonna be like 10 AP or like 5 AP or some crazy thing.
Speaking of not being able to be obscured, all of the greater demons are 16 wounds, except for the Great Unclean one.
That's
who's
the
18
only thing
wounds and
holding him
can't be
back,
obscured.
dude. That's the
I
only thing
know.
holding him back.
He needs to be T8 and 16 wounds, not T7 and 18 wounds.
Or you play on like WTC tables like real men, and and have like giant L's that have no windows, and then you're fine.
Yeah. Or
Man,
Until you have to go.
This last
outside
tournament I
of
went to, they had these big 10 by 10 ruins that were like 3-sided
Yep.
and like 3 levels, and every level had like 5 windows on each side. It's like, it was miserable. It's like, you can't even hide in that thing. Like, what's the purpose of it?
You know what? Talking about windowless terrain, let's talk about the SD Open. All right, so like US Open, so US Open terrain. When it comes to Chaos Demons, like how is that gonna affect your list building comparatively to something that is like player place terrain?
You know, I've got about 3 or 4 friends right now that could attest for me on how much back and forth I'm going on list building right now and what I want to run. I even came up with a crazy list that was like Scarbrand, 2 Bloodthirsters, and 2 Lord of Changes with Bellacor, just because they all have wings.
Oh, so
I don't have to worry about the terrain. Yeah, just so I can fly over the stuff and not worry about it.
What about can beasts go through terrain?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about like a giant army of like beasts and Nurgle?
If I had more than 5, I would absolutely do that. Plague drones though, plague drones are base. Plague drones are the poor man's beast and Nurgle. They've got 1 less wound, but double the movement.
Okay. So what is it? So you're going back and forth on these lists. What are you deciding here? Do you want like more infantry? Do you just want more fly? Are you thinking about like, just just sucking it up and just being like, you know what, greater demon it up? Like, what are you thinking about?
So here's the six I've gone back and forth on.
Yeah.
The same list I ran at SoCal.
Okay.
The Disciples list with all the summoning points and just playing massive horde. The Disciples list with all the horde and without the summoning, but bringing the Abominant Knight from House Korvax. Running just the pure Knights list with House Korvax so I can just move through walls and be like, screw it. Bellacor with 2 keepers, 30 demonettes, a big knight, and 3 or 4 little knights. Or just doing disciples with 3 little knights. Like there's so many options. I keep going back and forth. I don't know, and I have no idea what I'm gonna run.
Yeah, and like the thing about like U.S. open terrain is that there's 2 different terrain setups, right? One has a massive firing lane, like just massive firing lanes, and then the other one is a little bit more balanced. There's like obscuring in the middle, so you can hide more things. So like, how does that come into your mindset when you're building this list? Because like half of the games that you're going to play with are going to have these massive firing lanes.
Yeah, I mean the firing lanes are better for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, if I've got lanes to move through, it's better than having walls I have to move around. Because that's what I've
Yeah.
seen. I've seen the terrain and like the orc terrain. There's so many pieces on there that those 12 by 12 ruins. I mean, there's like one corner that you can move in and out of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so, I mean, if I've got models like keepers that I have to move them around there. There's no way for me to go up and over.
Yeah. Demons is like one of those armies where you really, really need to like look at the terrain, because the terrain plays such a huge point for specifically demons, because one, you can't move around certain things. Two, you don't have good saves. So like, if once you're exposed, you're dead. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing, like there's a keeper of secrets out in the open, it's dead. Like it's just gonna die. There's nothing to do about it.
Yeah, the another option I thought about too is running 2 Lords of Change and trying to make them as tanky as they can. So giving one that heals wounds when it does mortal wounds,
Yeah, order.
and then giving and so that one would have a regular 4-up invuln, and then the other one would have the 3-up invuln that wouldn't heal wounds but would be -1 damage,
Mm-hmm.
and then they both have the 6-up feel no pain.
Okay. All right.
And so just using those for dishing out as many mortal wounds as I can per turn.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm struggling to find a list that I think will do well with that terrain set, because that terrain. I mean, if you remember back when with SoCal when you interviewed me, one of the things I said was that the player place terrain was a huge difference in my demons list, and that's why it did so well.
Yeah, because you can just
And
make
so
your own, like your dream deployment zone and everything,
Well,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
is great.
player optimized terrains like really good for some more like nuanced style builds that require you to kind of have like staging areas and you can kind of create a pathway to where you need to go. But I'm curious to see how over time the US Open terrain develops though, because it could just be, one of many ideas that they might have for it.
Yeah, yeah, I do like. What do you, Scary? What do you think about the U.S. Open terrain comparatively to something like WTC terrain?
It's different. I like that there's different terrain styles. Personally, I do miss the age where TO would put like whatever terrain they had on the table, and it was like Russian roulette. You'd be like, okay, am I playing on table that's gonna be terrible for me, or am I playing on a decent table? Like, it forced you to kind of be more, think on your feet a little bit more, and adapt to like the circumstances in front of you. Kind of like, in real battle, you don't always get to pick the the terrain in the proper place. The U.S. Open terrain, um, I like how it sort of like encourages you to hide far away, and then as you get into the middle of the table, like infantry can kind of get a little closer before it sort of commits, because you've got the walls that kind of block line of sight and can go through the walls. Like your tanks and other things, you benefit from having fast moving tanks on like the outskirts that then kind of jump in or try find firing lanes. So it kind of dictates a certain playstyle. For WTC though, there are 8 different table like terrain layouts for like each different mission. So it is very varied. But on average, they're a lot heavier.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of them are not heavy at all when you look at firing angles. So it's all
Yeah.
about trying to get the speed to get into angles to shoot down this giant firing lane where you can see 3 objectives and you can't hide anyone out of line of sight while holding an objective. So then it's very much picking the right table for your matchup, but that's within the team like environment.
Yeah. But, dude, when it comes to US Open terrain, I'm very torn on it because like sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Like there's some missions, like I was playing on one where there was a huge firing lane right down the center, and it was the one where you have to hold your deployment zone, or you have to hold the objective inside of your own deployment zone in order to gain CP, right? And that objective is literally out in the open on this massive firing lane. So like you have to put something there that's durable, or else you're just not getting CP for the turn. And like, you know, that stuff kind of sucks. But Scott, you were saying that you actually prefer that type of layout, I guess, when it comes to demons.
No. I prefer the player place terrain.
Okay, all right. But well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. For the SD Open, you would rather have the one with the firing lanes versus the one with something in the middle.
I don't really know. I've only played one practice game using that terrain setup, and it was my summoning list against Chaos Knights that were not house quarterbacks, and my opponent never left the quarter of the board that he started in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it wasn't, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get those firing lanes open because he couldn't move out far enough to get through them. So, but yeah, I think I definitely like player place terrain better.
All right. Okay. So we're running a little bit over here, but I do want to ask a couple more questions. What are the matchups that you're the most like afraid of, and the ones that you're the most confident in?
So the one I'm most confident in is easy. That's Grey Knights.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just put it straight up simple. Like I will split my pinks out to every blue horror and every pink horror that I can. And when you finally kill them for 2 CP, I'm bringing the entire unit of all 150 models back.
Oh, it's so painful. I can't believe that's still a thing. It's like one of the most broken ones next to like.
Hey, you know what? When I'm running that old of a codex, I'm going to use it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's a really good matchup. Knights is a really good matchup because I can just tie them up. I don't have to worry about them trying to come at me.
Even the new Knights and everything?
Yeah, it just becomes a game of attrition. I can lock them in combat because the Infernal Entraptress can keep them from falling back. So now they're only shooting at what I want them to shoot at. So they start shooting at the pinks that are in combat with them. And my pinks start spreading out further and further and further.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or they're shooting at the bloodletters that are already charged them and taking, 10, 12, 15 wounds off of them.
Okay.
So yeah, the Knights I'm not too worried about. I think probably Tau is probably one of the scarier matchups, especially if they have Hammerheads or the Borkan Storm Surge. Either of those, my stuff doesn't last. The Borkan Storm Surge just picks up, 20, 30 models with that one shot and that strat to ignore invulns.
Yeah.
It's ugly. It's really, really ugly.
Okay.
And the Tyranids, the Flying Hive Tyrant is the scariest part because he just makes me take mortal wounds. And that's the only real tech piece that I have is I bring Forbidden Gem just for that reason.
Oh, you bring on the Contorted Epitome.
Yep. Yeah. And then when I do summon in
such a good relic. Just saying.
It's amazing. And then when I bring in a Change Caster, I typically bring him in with Flickering Flames, so I can buff up the either the Pink Horrors or the Flamers if I'm plan on bringing them in. But I also tend to give him Treason as Zinch. Just on that off chance that I can, Treason as Zinch, that Flying Hive Tyrant, make him charge into a Maleceptor to kill it, and then consolidate into some Tyranid Warriors. And then they have to attack him back, and then I just take all of his saves on his regular save or his armor save on his invul, just to make sure he dies.
Okay.
But it's one of those things. If I don't roll those 3 dice on Treason as Zinch, well enough, or 2 dice, whatever it is, then it doesn't happen.
Okay.
And it's just dead Bellacor at that point.
What about Eldar?
I haven't got a practice game in against Eldar. I do have an Eldar army, so I've kind of played around with it a little bit. Again, it's one of those armies that they can put out mass volume of shots. So anything that can put out mass volume of shots scares the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can get in close to them, before they have a chance. I think it's not a bad matchup for me.
Okay. And then last army that I want to know, Sisters of Battle. How are you like? How do you feel about
no,
that?
no problem.
No problem.
No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
It's a lot of T3 bodies. You know what? You know what? Eldar and Sisters of Battle, and most Eldar varieties absolutely hate is 90 Strength 4 shots coming from pink horrors
Yeah.
with full rerolls to hit from Bellacor and +1 to wound. So hitting
Ooh.
on 4s, full rerolls, and then wounding on 2s.
That
Worst
sounds
thing is you
disgusting.
can't tie them down in Disciples of Bellacor because of the teleport thing.
Yep. Yeah, cool. You got me in
So
combat. I'm
annoying.
just gonna jump out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
and then they
oh, you did 15 wounds to me.
annoying.
Cool. You killed a pink, who you're now going to kill 2 blues and 2 brims. So I literally lost 1 model and I just took 5 saves.
Yeah.
And then then the one guy comes back to life because it's the master possession nearby. Like it's
D6 guys. D6
yeah, I know,
come back.
I know. But if you just lost the one, then he just comes back, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
up to 6. So you could have up to
Well, but no,
technically that unit D6
no, because so technically the
or 8,
blue horrors,
12.
the blue horrors and the brims now become part of that unit. So when you bring back D6, you can bring those back as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's say I lost two pink horrors, but brought back 4 blue horrors, and then I roll a 6 on that to bring them back, the D6. I can
Nice.
literally bring back the 2 pinks and the 4 blues.
It's exciting.
It's got some jank to it. I'll give it that.
Mhm.
I just don't know if it's got enough for the current armies.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to be it for this episode. Are there any other closing words that you want to talk about for Demons real quick or anything like that you want to touch on?
If you're a Demon fan out there, just hit me up on the Facebook Demon channel or Demon page. And if you're going to be at SoCal, or not SoCal Open, the San Diego Open, and you're a Demon fan, stop by, say hi. Look for me on BCP, see what table I'm at, and swing by.
Heck yeah, brother. What did you finish for Demons on the last season?
So I went in about 16 points behind the first place person. And that was Mark Ashton. He was also there. And he was the one that kind of turned me on to the Demon Horde. And I was still running, the 3 keepers and all that jank. And I think I went 3-3, and he went 5-1, and he beat me out. And so I took second last year overall for Demons.
Oh, so close.
Yeah,
close,
literally.
so close.
If I had won 6 games and he won 5, it was enough points to take it. Or if I beat him by 1 game, it was gonna be close to me being able to take it from him.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that is going to be it for this episode. Let's get into some plugging here. Skari, I know that you like to get all plugged up, so that sounded inappropriate, but go ahead and plug yourself.
As a Dark Eldar player, I approve. Anyway, you can find me over on YouTube. So you clickety-clack Scardcast, and you find all the really awesome videos that I do. And then you subscribe to it, and we hang out, and you learn some stuff.
Yeah,
that's where you can find me.
I heard that if you subscribe to Skari, you get like a free BMW or something. No gas though. We can't swing that. We can't swing that.
Not in this.
Gas is too much.
Yeah, too much. Scott, where can people find you? Yeah, you said Facebook and stuff, but is there any other place that people can find you?
I'm old, so I have Facebook. Like that's it. Like I have Discord, but I don't do a whole lot on there. But like I don't have Instagram or Twitter. I'm like I said, I just turned 40 this year, so I don't do any of that stuff. But yeah, no, I'm not on any podcast or anything. You can catch me roaming around the tournament circuits up here in Northern California and sometimes down in Southern California. That's about it.
Awesome. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope that you guys had a great time. If you guys liked it, make sure you guys press the thumbs up, leave a like, press the subscribe button, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.